Good morning, everybody. Or we're saying good morning because we're coming to you with a quick impromptu podcast this week. Kipp
hmm
Snow. Hey, Mike. How are you doing this morning?
Pretty good. Hey, I'm Mike Singer from the Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. Podcast number 3.
Yep.
Right? We can count the 3. It's
Yeah, we'll
early.
we'll do that. We'll do that counting of things. We're recording this Saturday morning, and on purpose. And so you saw Mike with his cup of coffee. I've got my cup of coffee here. This is not an endorsement of Waffle House. It is an endorsement of the nuclear ship Savannah, and we will get into that here in a little bit. But
Right, right.
there was a meeting of the Baltimore Port Alliance, which is the association of all the public and private port entities within the Port of Baltimore on Friday. They meet on a
hmm
regular basis, and one of
And this
the
time, actually, the last meeting, supposedly until, because they always skip the summer, right?
yeah, they do take the
Um,
summer off. Yep.
hmm
But this one was kind of a last minute change on the agenda, and it really was to have the unified command for the bridge recovery efforts to come in and discuss what's happening within a couple, within that the next couple of days time period. And so,
Right.
Mike, you and I were there at the meeting, and we both took some notes. So we wanted to make sure that we got that information out there because the information that was presented answers a lot of the questions that we're seeing within the chat groups and within the ship watchers group and the postings there. So,
Yep,
Mike,
absolutely.
I'm
Wanted to
going to
get it, sorry,
yeah,
wanted to
no,
get it
no,
out to people as soon as we could. This thing moves so fast. There's so much going on. Every day things change, and then sometimes they run into things that change the schedule. Just one quick example. So let's go back to the beginning. They build the meeting as the big 3, right? So they were going to have the big 3 at the port meeting. So we're talking about Colonel Pachason, District Commander, United States Army Corps of Engineers, Baltimore District. Jonathan Daniels, Executive Director of Port of Baltimore, who is our new Executive Director. He was here for how long? A month or
about,
two before the bridge
yeah.
came. Just crazy.
They mentioned
And
they mentioned in the meeting at our last meeting in March was his, he was only a couple of weeks on the job, and he was kind of giving his state of the port address, and then consequently the
right,
Tuesday after that the bridge.
right. He had this huge, enthusiastic, grow Baltimore plan for the future, and then wham. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
right.
and then
Right.
David O'Connell from the Coast Guard, captain of the port. All 3 were there. But this moves so fast that I wanted to hurry up and get some of this information out
Sure.
this morning. So I'll just start running through it,
Yeah,
Kip.
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Um, we heard that they are on track to expand to the 400-foot wide channel early next week. So the 400-foot wide channel is what is required so that they can bring just anything through the port. Just anything. What I mean by anything is any of the ships, regardless of size, that normally come in here. um,
That's the minimum requirement, and I think one of the you may be mentioning this here coming up, but in a perspective, before the bridge collapse, that width distance was 700.
yes.
So this is just the bare minimum requirement to go full operations.
Yes. And so what's interesting about that is, you let me get on camera here. You had 700, right? But that was everybody ran down the center pretty much. Now we're all off to one side, and you have about half of it. So, and the sides of the channel are tapered up. But when you're flush to one side of something, it's a lot different than quote unquote driving down the middle. So, but what I thought was interesting is that the 400-foot wide supposedly was established from the Maryland pilots. Um, And Colonel Pachason, I thought was really cool. She took some time to
Oh my
say,
gosh, yes.
hey, these pilots did an incredible job. They went to the simulator. They gave us detailed information about exactly what we wanted, exactly what we needed. It wasn't sugar coated. This is what we have to have, excuse me, to make this work, to open up the port 400 feet so we can run things in and out the way we used to, and unapologetic about this is what we need.
Mhm.
And so she went on to say that that really helps Army Corps of Engineers because, it wasn't, oh, we'd like to have this, but it would, hey, this is what we need. We can aim for it. We can shoot for it. We can get it the first time and have a goal and accomplish it. So I thought that was really cool that she gave some big props to the Maryland Pilots Association.
Absolutely, and in explaining that, hopefully that the general public can look at that example and understand that, hey, look, these are very precision decisions that are being made, with very little room for error, and so they are spending a little bit extra, even though this seems like it's going extremely fast. They're spending a significant amount of time making sure that their research and their decisions are point on, and in order to implement all of these steps within the plan.
Yes, yes. So next, they're also talking about how the work on the channel. So the work on limited access channel that they've been working on, off to the side, as deep as they can get it. Um, at one point, was affecting the people way up on the span on the truss that was on the ship. So they're over here digging and working, and the truss is over here reverberating where people are working. And so, you know, we a lot of us probably know about the live stream that we have set up, and you can't see that.
Right.
You can't tell that that's going on from miles away, which is where the camera is. Um, So, and because of that, they had to stop doing some work on the truss, or it had to be one or the other. So, in the efforts of safety, it was another thing where, oh, wait a minute, we see this thing going on. Okay, this affects our schedule. This affects our process. How do we go about getting both of these things done, because we can't do them at the same time safely. So I thought that was interesting.
She talked about that there's actually three contractors out on site, and one for each major component of the recovery. So you have the channel clearing, you have
Mm-hmm.
for the federal channel,
Yes.
you have the state who has a contractor out there to do some of the state oriented things. You got the federal contractor who's out there for the federal. So all three of them are all trying to complete an initiative related to this, a meaningful initiative. And so that's the importance of having those three entities communicating together, um, simultaneously.
Hence the unified command,
Correct, because of that type of a a situation. So
because there could be some conflicts. And yeah, I got to be honest, you got to love Colonel Pachason's personality.
oh my
She's
gosh,
just
yes,
kind of out front and friendly. So when
Fr-
you
fr-
think of
friendly but frank.
Army and
Mhm.
management, you think of you
Mhm.
know uh stern and serious, and she's serious, of course,
Yep,
but she has a light way of bringing her points across, which
and,
is
and and very
which is
knowledgeable, very
yeah,
very
absolutely.
very intelligent with the process, and understanding not only that there's a task at hand and there are things that need to be accomplished, but there's also a personal or personnel or humanistic
Hmm.
aspect of this whole project, and being able to blend both of those together to be so successful, I was really impressed.
Yes, and she even went as far as to say, "Hey, I even like it when there's a little conflict, or maybe everybody's maybe there's a little a little conflict, and because that lets me know everybody's trying to do their job,
Yeah,
everybody's passionate about it, everybody wants to get this done, and so okay, I know everybody's working hard and everybody wants to get their because you like you said, you have these three companies out
hmm,
there and they're all working so closely together. How do you manage that
yeah,
and time that out, and who does what when? And I think that's something that's probably lost on me most of the time. That
sure.
there's these three elements out there trying to work to get the same thing done all the time.
Mhm.
Um, but some cool details. So they were. She said that they were out there till 2 a.m. Thursday night into Friday morning working on the bow. Right, and so get this right. So they want to dive to make sure that nothing's going to move when they move the dolly, so that it would puncture the hull, because the hull is intact now. There's no punctures. But as they move the ship, they don't want stuff to fall off. So they have to go up on the bow and get everything off. So they remove they got the bridge off of there. They got 180 containers off of there, but there's still some loose things up there that they're worried about falling off. So they don't
Mhm.
want to lose more stuff as they're going to Seagirt and affect other parts of the channel. So
So
get up on the bow, get the stuff off of there, then dive to verify, then move the ship. Is that what you recall?
yeah, yes, exactly. And so, but as I was listening to that, I was thinking about some of the chat comments and messages and things that we've seen, asking about this particular process. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And I was almost imagining, okay, you know, the ship's going to be refloated and everybody's going to look at it and go, why is there still concrete bridge on the front? Why didn't they take all of the containers off? Why didn't they do this? There is almost like a scientific process for each one of these considerations,
Yes.
and a reason why. So in the details that they were providing, that she was providing, it made a lot more sense as to why they were doing certain things. Some of it has to do with timing. They want the
Mm-hmm.
ship out of the way in order to open it up, that particular, that side of the channel. If they do piecemeal, then that's going to take longer. Um,
Right.
but
So
but but the process that they have come up with is extremely safe and methodical to
right.
do that. What one this I'll let you continue. And I'll put in some other things that I noticed. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. What I wanted to say is um, absolutely safety, but move the minimal amount of stuff that you can, because you're going to take the ship over to Seagirt, and then you'll have land base cranes, or you could be tied up next to the ship and you're not out in the middle. So that's one thing that he did elaborate. Captain of the port, David O'Connell,
Mm,
did, and said, if we can, let's get the stuff off that we need to get off of the ship, and then once we get over to Seagirt, it's a lot more stable. It's a lot easier to work on removing this stuff than out here in the middle in the expanse. So that it
a much
just
more a much more controlled environment. I had heard it.
or
So you mentioned that they're going to move the ship with you know roadway pieces and busted containers and full containers over to Seagirt Terminal. One of
mm-hmm.
the things that I'm sure maybe questions coming up about that would be, well, what happened? Why would they do it this way, with the concern that stuff may continue to fall off within the harbor, and then that creates a problem. And they're very aware that this is a potential issue, and they have already a process in place for tugs and other support vessels to follow, to guide and follow the ship. And that if something does happen to fall off, they'll be immediately be ready to recover the whatever that particular item is.
Right,
So
right,
very concerned thought process. And yes, we know that this is not normal, but we have processes in place to go and mitigate that in case something does happen.
right. But again, I think their theory is to do their best to grab everything that they think might fall off, because they definitely don't want that to happen. But I'm sure 100% you're right that you got to plan for what you think might not happen. Yesterday, and another detail I found interesting, she was saying that they were doing hot and cold cutting yesterday. So whatever, blow torches. You're
Well,
cutting steel, and then maybe that clamp diamond saw that they put around things
yes.
that just kind of and just cuts till it cuts through things, like they did with that giant cement beam.
Hmm.
That was amazing to see that thing just basically like sheared off like a butter knife. I mean, that was
Sure.
just
Sure.
crazy. So plans are, well, hope to move the dolly early next week. And then some background kind of logistics things that I didn't think about. Okay, so you're the Army Corps of Engineers, you have this emergency, you come to town. If you're going to do stuff, if you're going to do things, you have to have a contract. If you have to have a contract, there has to be money. There has to be money in the budget so you can write the contract. Like we should be doing. Like maybe not so much credit card debt and actually don't spend
Sure.
money unless you have it. So that's kind of a cool thing, right? So she went into these details that they had to actually grab some what do they call it, O&M, operations and maintenance money,
Yeah.
from things that were planned maybe not just in the Baltimore area,
There was
and
nationwide projects that
and move some money around, put it in the correct pile so that they could write this contract so they could get going. And they've been promised that they're going to get it all that back, and they'll be able to redisperse it and go about doing their normal maintenance. But I kind of thought that was interesting.
that was interesting to me is that in excuse me. Yeah, I thought that was interesting to me because in mission critical situations, you can't just say, "Well, we can't start on this because we don't have the money." I can't imagine what the response would have been if we
Right.
were told, "Well, just sit there in about a month we can start," and we're just the ship and the structure is just sitting there. So they moved in there, and the Army Corps has a process to be able to manage this, but they still have to be able to cover the actual operations. There's a cost associated with it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so when you have situations like this with no funding that's immediately available for emergencies, there are other areas that are impacted because of it, and so
Mm-hmm.
other ports may have some fallout from this because they're whatever they were trying to complete with their dredging operations or logistical operations are now either paused or temporarily held up until we can get
Yeah.
this part of the project done.
Yeah, that was interesting. I wouldn't have thought that through myself. So normal maintenance dredging for Baltimore in 2025. I guess
Mhm.
that means spring. That's when we normally do it. Kind of in the spring, I guess. Interesting that she said the channel's already at 50 feet. But they haven't made that official because there are some high points that they're worried about. And she even went into, like graphically, she's saying, okay, you're on the side of the channel, and then you're coming down and you're picking up this stuff and you're dredging and you're picking things up. And as you're picking them up, on the sonar, you can see these little high points sticking up. And so They want to make sure that they're not steel or anything that would harm a ship. So they're coming through with a barge and kind of dragging the bottom to flatten it out to make sure. And so that's why they were talking about 45 or 48 feet, because they don't want to authorize the 50 until they know it's flat. And then, like I said before, you're in the middle of a flat channel. That's one thing. You're over here against the side of it. It's a little bit different. And that's where that's where they are. We're all the way to the north side of the channel. And so a little bit trickier than just running down the center.
Correct. Correct. One thing to think about with dredging, so somebody may say, well, why is the Army Corps in there doing maintenance dredging? Well, once they dredge to 50 foot, shouldn't it just be fine? Well, think about this from when you go out to Ocean City, you go out to the beach, you stick your feet in the sand, you kind of, maybe you dig a hole and the water kind of fills in. And then as the water fills in, that sand silt kind of fills that hole that you've dug. And then you got to keep digging it out. And then the next wave that comes in fills it back in. And then you got to dig. That's what this same process is. And I know in different ports, like here in Baltimore, we have a very different base, a harbor base than like what's happening in Charleston, where I'm from. It's a very
More
kind of muddy kind of, we called it pluff mud. It's a nasty, sticky that that
behaves a little bit different. Plus, you're
fill,
closer to ocean currents, right? So don't you have a lot more movement down there and a lot more shoaling, right?
But in both cases, there's a different kind of fill in with the bottom of the harbor, and you have to keep that dug out because it does fill back in over time.
Right. And then he did say, I think it was David O'Connell, who said, so over here on the side, there was some shoaling. So it was getting a little shallower. Things were filling in. And then that's where they want to run this temporary channel off to the side. So, they went ahead and dug some of that out while they were over there. Let's see. So another question a lot of people were talking about is ballast. How the ship is ballasted. I've seen some numbers. I don't have them handy, but how many thousands of gallons and how many thousands of pounds of water ballasted in the tanks, and they've got it. They're confident that they can float the ship when they move the ballast and take the anchors off of it, because of how it's been acting in storms and through operations and such. So it has all this ballast to keep it down and steady while they're working on it. So it's not moving around when you have men on it working, which wouldn't be safe. So they're confident that once they discharge some ballast and move it, that the ship will float on its own.
So a couple of things. Let me put my professor hat on here.
Go for it.
For those who may not understand what ballast or what the ballast tanks do on a ship, they're designed to help keep the ship afloat. So if you have a very skinny, vessel that's and very tall vessel, you've got to have some balance. It's very similar to when you get on a plane and the whole luggage at 50 pounds type situation. The airlines will actually go and put your bags in certain areas based on the weight so that the plane can take off, because if the plane is not weight balanced, it's not going to take off. Same thing happens with a ship. And so if you've got containers with different products and different dimensions, weights, and those types of things, it may make the ship off balance. And there are examples out on the internet where you've seen a ship in port tied up to a dock, and it just flips because of that balance that takes that off balance that takes place when you're removing containers. So even removing containers has to be done in a systematic way to make sure that the ship stays afloat. So you've got these big, large tanks within each one of these ships that fill up with water that or that you can that the captain engineers fill up with water in order to maintain the balance. Now, in this situation, I think it's very important because I saw some comments about, well, as soon as the truss that was resting on the front of the ship was blown up and it fell off, why didn't the ship just bounce back up to even keel? And that's because they've put they've filled quite a number of ballast tanks on the ship to keep it down to prevent that actual transaction from happening, and it's tied down with ropes on a number of ends, and there are actually two tugs that are tied up to the ship to just monitor this whole process. So
Oh, I didn't. I'm not sure I knew that myself.
yeah, that was one of the things that I think that was Captain O'Connell had said. It may have been the
Mm-hmm.
colonel, but there's
Mm-hmm.
this, it's not just kind of free flowing. The ship's just sitting there. They actually secured the ship in place during this process from that safety factor.
Right. Well, there are four anchor lines aft that have it stable, and then have you seen on the live stream? There are some lines coming off the bow to the cement dolphin.
Yes. Yes.
And I found that interesting.
So
So
they had the ship completely tied down, and so that and because of that, there is that high confidence that they release all of those lines and it'll come right back up.
hmm so Captain O'Connell was David O'Connell was talking about, and can't go into specifics about what and when, but up to 30 hours of ballasting ops between moving and discharging. Um, so the ship will go to Seagirt 4, which is the closest berth if you're looking at the live stream, with the tallest cranes, and actually the deepest berth. Okay. And then as weight is removed from the bow and containers are removed and they remove more ballast, they'll bring it up and shallower and move it down to the end where it is shallower, because only the last two berths, the closer half of Seagirt, is at 50 feet. But further down where the old blue cranes are, it's not.
Correct.
So 4 to 6 weeks at Seagirt. Wow. And then the draft plan is, and he made sure he said that the draft plan right now is to remove the rest of the containers down in Norfolk. And then I guess you'll be riding pretty high and there's no bridges down there, and then you can just go. So what, some temporary repairs here?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think more significant repairs either down in Norfolk or somewhere else. That wasn't
So,
clear.
and some of this is based on some of the work that I've done in the past in both of the ports. Norfolk is well known for as a shipbuilding ship repair port, especially with the Navy there. And there's a number of contractors, shipyards that are down there who can do that.
Mm-hmm.
The major patching in order for it to get onto its home base where it needs to go to do the
The
last,
serious
the serious stuff.
work.
We have some shipyard facilities here in port, and they'll be working on the extreme, those temporary patchworks here, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't have the mega facilities like what exists down in Norfolk.
Right, that's true. Some other concerns. People are always talking about the pipeline. Isn't there gas and water pipelines, and isn't the ship sitting on the pipeline? And aren't they worried?
Just
Captain O'Connell.
out of context, BG&E has a couple of electrical and gas lines that run the length of the where the bridge was, and so
Yeah, thank you. So, but he had said the pipeline is capped, inerted. It's inerted, so there isn't anything. There's no more gas in it, and they really aren't concerned about it. And then just to get to the end here, just some things to tie it off. Crystal Cruises to become a port of call on 2026. So
cool.
so that's cool. And if I get the wording on this wrong, just correct me. The legislature, like right at the end, has approved the reopening of Hart Miller Island.
Yeah. I believe that was um, there's a bill for the
Oh, a
uh,
bill.
yeah,
Yes.
it was a bill that was signed. It was I thought that they called it the Cox Creek bill, but I
Hmm.
don't think that's correct. We'll
Well,
have to look.
that's not the right name, but maybe it
You
was
know,
packaged in that
I think that
legislation.
was packaged in there, but this bill that was just signed opens up Hart Miller Island for the Trade Point Atlantic container operations. So Sparrows Point Container Terminal
Hmm.
that's coming on at Coke Point.
Hmm.
All of they've got to technically level out that piece of the property so that they can do the asphalt work and bring in the cranes. This process is now being sped up from the initial the initial plan,
Hmm.
but that material has to be put somewhere. The problem
Well.
is is that because of what the property was used prior to this with the steel mill, there is a significant amount of environmental concerns with the material.
Hmm.
But we've got some containment facilities that are prepared to be able to handle that. So
Right, because
that'll be pretty interesting to watch, and will definitely help speed up this process.
right. Because initially they were going to have to find their own place because they're a private company. They weren't the initial um, mandate, if you will, was that they weren't going to be able to just use or fill up the state's facilities, and they were going to have to build a dike and extend their landmass out to just for the dredge material because that channel going into Sparrows Point is maybe 40 feet, maybe. And so you're talking about putting two big 1,300 foot long container ships in there at 50 feet, with 8 cranes working. So there's a lot of dredge, a lot of material. I forget what this square footage, it was some astronomical number, but so this will help them. They won't have to build anything, and it'll help make it happen faster.
Correct.
Um, yeah, I think that's all I have. Shipping is coming and going, so we've got coal ships coming out and actually getting transloaded in Annapolis, which I've never seen before, which is
Mm,
quite fascinating.
yeah.
So they're actually coming out at whatever they require, as deep as they can, maybe 45 feet, going down to Annapolis and then coming down with a barge, and they have a special crane picking off the barge and putting into the ship. There's one down there now. Another one left last night, going to do the same thing. The Atlantic Sail came in last night. One of the ACL G4 Conroes uh, container, roll on, roll off, so it does both. Um, the largest Conroes in the world, and there's only 5 of them, and we get them here, so that's kind of
So
cool.
it's pretty impressive, that ship where you can see both types of operations all in one vessel. Yeah.
Right. And so, real quickly, the one thing that, people see all these videos of the ships coming back and the containers are a wreck, or, these containers fell off and, they're floating in the ocean. So, I just wanted to say ACL, because of their design of their ships, 0 container loss record. The only container company with a 0 container loss record
Because it's
because of how their ships are designed.
the problem with that is it also limits the amount. So that's kind of your cost trade off, is that if you could
Yes.
maintain 100% cargo safety,
Absolutely.
you have to do some different designs for the ship.
We'll
Sure.
we'll have to get into we'll have to do a whole episode on container loading one day
Oh, 100%, we can do that.
with the
Because
twist locks and the and all that stuff, how that all works. That would be cool.
the containers
You
are
want to
not
talk
just
about Maritime Day?
yeah, sure. The containers are just not stacked up there on top of each other. They actually secure it and lock it. So we can do a little lesson on that. That'll be good.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Maritime Day, yes. Coming up tomorrow on Sunday, May the 19th. down at the nuclear ship Savannah out on Pier 13 in Canton. There you go. There's the nuclear ship. The Baltimore Port Alliance is hosting a um, National Maritime Day Commemoration to celebrate, and this started to commemorate the first transatlantic crossing by a steamship, and it was at the time named the steamship Savannah, SS Savannah, and so there's
Mm-hmm.
some historical importance there.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1950s, after World War II, and for the history buffs there and the nuclear the bombs that were dropped in Japan, President Eisenhower wanted to showcase that nuclear power could be used for peaceful means. So he commissioned the nuclear ship Savannah to be built, and it's a hybrid ship. And it had both passengers and cargo that went around the world
Mm-hmm.
to showcase that nuclear power could be used for peaceful means.
Mm-hmm.
The
Atoms for Peace program, I think it was called.
Yep, Atoms for
Mm-hmm.
Peace. That's right. So
Mm-hmm.
the nuclear ship has now been decommissioned. They've
Mm-hmm.
removed the nuclear reactor out of the ship, and now the Maritime Administration, MARAD, is now looking at what the next steps are with what's going to be happening with the ship.
Mm-hmm.
While that's going through, it is tied up here in Baltimore and Pier 13. And each year we have a commemoration of all of the important maritime related opportunities that we have today that
Mm-hmm.
we can celebrate. So we're doing this not only on Pier 13 with the nuclear ship Savannah. You can come down on Sunday, do a ship tour. The John Brown is also tied there up at Pier 13, and you can also take a tour of the John Brown as a Liberty ship. It was built here in Baltimore out at
Yes.
Sparrows Point, so that's a really cool history nugget there. But it's one of two, I believe. I think it's only two Liberty ships that are still in existence. There's one out on the West Coast, the one in
There's one in Athens.
Greece.
There's actually one in Athens.
Third one. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that there might have been a third one, but I knew of the two here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the volunteer crew there keep the ship going. They have living crews once or twice a year, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty neat.
Yep.
But if you come out on Sunday, you'll be able to tour both ships and see a couple other booths. Mike, I think you're going to have a ship watchers booth. You still planning on doing that?
No, I can't. I can't do that this year.
All right.
I'll drop in. Sunday is our daughter's baby shower,
Oh, great. Okay, good.
so
Well,
we're
that's
expecting a grandbaby. But I will be able to drop in, maybe for a couple hours.
sounds good. All right, so come on out to the pier. There is parking available out at Ruckert terminals and shuttle
Yes.
buses who are bringing
Mm-hmm.
everybody back and forth, so you don't have to worry about the parking. At 11:30, there'll be a commemoration ceremony on the deck of the Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have quite a number of speakers who will come. They're going to have a special commemoration of
Yes.
the construction workers who lost their lives on the Key Bridge.
Yes.
So be very important to be able to commemorate those lives that were lost, but also all of the mariners throughout time. And so there'd be a really nice special ceremony, wreath laying, ceremonial salute. Color
Mm-hmm.
guards will be there. So it takes about 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a very neat commemoration ceremony. We'll also be broadcasting on YouTube live starting about 11:15 for that
Okay.
ceremony. So if you can't make it out,
And
you
make
can
sure you get me that link so I can post it to my socials.
absolutely.
Shipwatchers, Baltimore Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. Mm-hmm.
We will get that put up for everybody to take a look. So if you can't come out, you can still celebrate online.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
Real quickly, I wanted to put a couple of things out there. Like you said, the John Brown, made here in Baltimore, 80 years old, still runs on the original triple steam expansion engine. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
just incredible that this thing runs. I mean, these volunteers do so much work on this ship. And then also the NS Savannah Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and just smack me if I get any of this wrong, has basically, they're basically done and they're terminating their license. So somebody needs to step up and say, hey, I can afford to run and take on a museum ship because this thing's ready to go. But what I wanted to say is, if you're in Baltimore or nearby, you're seeing this podcast, you thought about going to see the Savannah, you thought, oh, one day I'll get there. Go tomorrow, because there might not be a tomorrow. It might not be here for the next Maritime Day.
Yeah.
Go see this thing. It is a time capsule. Go see it.
As you go through the ship, it's all in the 1950s decor.
It's
You know,
I'm not sure if it's futuristic Jetsons or kind of
it does
50s.
kind of look like that, yeah.
It's very Art Deco. It's wild looking.
Even in the dining hall, you know, so you think of a traditional cruise ship, a dining hall, and they have the original decor and some of the plates and place settings.
Yeah,
when
there's some interesting pieces in there. Yeah.
The world's first microwave is down in the kitchen.
Right.
Yeah, and so there is a story that goes with it, that it wasn't designed, wasn't originally created for microwave, but somebody stuck a piece of meat in it and it cooked it very fast, and they go, oh, okay. And so that's how so you can go and look at the microwave that's in there. So even starts of new technologies that we have today, you can look back at history and understand what the importance was of its creation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As we close, wanted to make sure we talk about, of course, Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers Facebook page. 15,000 people on there. We have a website full of shipping information, port maps, air draft, like how much real-time space is there under a bridge for a ship, all kinds of cool stuff. Brand new 4K broadcast quality live stream camera just came online yesterday.
I looked at that last night, and you could see the people out there on
from miles away.
Yeah, there was a truck that passed on the road behind out there on land. It was really impressive.
It's yeah. So if you go to BaltimoreShipwatchers.com, there's a tab for live stream. There's also a tab for merch, so you can see the shirt I have on, and we have these really cool mugs. This is, ironically, a logo that I had commissioned back in 2022. So quite apropos for what's happened recently. With the trademark logo on the other side of the mug, we've got some hats. And then we've got some T-shirts, and I mean, this is a really cool to have that Key Bridge logo on your back. So yeah, there's I think it's called merch, is a tab on the website.
Okay.
25% of the proceeds go to Baltimore International Seafair Center.
Oh, cool!
Right. So
appreciate that.
They are the people that visit the ships and make sure the people on the ships that, have been on the ships for 6 months or a year and are away from home, make sure they have food, make sure they're taken care of, make sure that they can, get out, get off the ship, visit, go shopping. They do so much for them. So we're contributing 25% of all proceeds go to the Seafair Center.
Excellent. All right, cool. Yeah. Okay. So everybody, make sure what's important with the Shipwatchers website is the link to the live stream is there, so you don't have to go and ask, hey, where is the link? It's in multiple places, so you can definitely go to the Shipwatchers website. You've got the Shipwatchers YouTube channel also.
Yes.
We're going to be putting these videos up also. If
I can interrupt just a second, that's Balto Ches. So Balto, like we like to abbreviate Baltimore, and Ches for Chesapeake, Balto Ches. So that's YouTube, X, and Instagram.
And we'll put the links up here in the video so
Mm-hmm.
that you can click on it or go to that.
Mm-hmm.
But also these podcasts that we're recording, we're going to have them up on the Shipwatchers YouTube channel, but
Mm-hmm.
they're also on Spotify and Apple Podcast platform. And so
Awesome.
we're trying to get these in the audio format also. So
Yes.
if you're now in the car driving to work and your commute has doubled because of the Key Bridge, um,
How ironic.
you can now listen to us in the car so take a look at those. We'll put those links up also. We'll try to put into a couple of other platforms also that people
Mm-hmm.
use.
Sounds good.
All right, Mike.
All right.
My coffee cup is down to the bottom, so I think maybe
Yeah,
it's
what's going
time for
on?
us
Yeah, we got a problem.
time to stop and go fill up. So,
Yes, sir.
all right.
All right. Good Saturday morning.
Yep. Good Saturday morning. We'll see everybody at National Maritime Day on Sunday, and if not, we'll catch you on the next podcast.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Happy ship
everyone.
watching.
Happy ship watching.
There you go. All right. Take it easy.
See ya.